Have you ever made a decision that you thought was going to be a good thing, but then ended up being a bad thing? When I planned my next adventure, which was supposed to be bigger, better, more amazing, more awesome than anything I'd done in the past, including whitewater rafting, mountain climbing, skydiving, running with bulls, scuba diving. This was going to be more in every sense. So I had one day planned in Amsterdam, 1 month in Kenya, where I was going to do an international finance micro lending internship, a day or two in Dubai, a couple of days in Thailand, and then a year in Laos, where I was taking over the online marketing for a jungle tour company. Perfect adventure job. The day in Amsterdam went great. I wandered all over the place. I took the train to a couple other cities. Wonderful time. I really liked Amsterdam. It's a lot like West Michigan, actually. I saw a lot of greenhouses. I felt comfortable there. But Kenya went well for the first couple of days. And then I got poisoned at the same time as getting a bacterial infection. Things went downhill quickly. I wasn't close to where I originally flown into. I'd flown into Nairobi, was staying in Kitengela. Now I was almost all the way across the country on the ocean in Mombasa. I had fun swimming in the Indian Ocean, but later that night, after I got poisoned at the beach and had some social pressure applied to extract some money from me, I was locked inside of a hotel room from the outside. I was laying on the bed. I was unable to stand. I was seeing and hearing things and vomiting blood over the edge of the bed. I was told by the people I was with that I was going to die. They were going to leave me there. And if I didn't die, I could come back and stay with them in Kitengela. Luckily, my mother, who I texted and told her that I was in a very bad situation, had called people and started threatening them. And they came back and helped me. I was able to have the chance to visit two interesting hospitals in Kenya, and that is quite a story in itself. In the end, after a harrowing ordeal, I was able to make it out of Kenya and back to West Michigan. I thought it was basically over. I went through an antibiotic treatment here, thought I was going to get better, got a job, things go back to normal. Just a week of my life, a little bit of pain, and a few $1,000s. But it's not actually what happened. I didn't get better. So I went through another antibiotic treatment. That didn't help either. And then I eventually went through a herbal holistic antibiotic treatment for 3 months that ended up fixing a lot of my digestive issues or getting rid of the disease itself. The hospital had done the wrong test on those diseases, so we only finally got to the specialist that knew something about East African diseases after I had gone through 3 treatments, and he said that nothing was any longer in my system. So that was a little bit of a relief, but I was still having major issues, and I was trying to work through them. But I had sensitivity to light, I had sensitivity to sound, my hands started to shake, I was having major memory issues, short-term and long-term. Everything was going haywire, my hormones were off, everything was off. I had this killer migraine all the time. My entire body kind of throbbed. Went to a chiropractor friend of mine. He took x-rays, my first spinal x-rays in my life at the age of 26, which is odd because I've been in car crashes and I've had concussions in football and mountain biking and sailing. And he noticed something odd. We were doing it after he was closing up, so he was shooting the x-rays himself. He came into the room, he peeked his head through the door, and he said, "Jeff, have you ever had neck surgery?" I was like, "Nope." He's like, "Oh, interesting." So Mike closed the door and he went back and did his x-ray thing. He told me that I have major spinal deformities. I have 4 spinal deformities, actually. I have C1 partially fused to the skull. I have C2 and C3 fused together in the back with the odontoid in the front, retroflexed into the brainstem. I have a set of cervical ribs, and I have an L6, just a completely formed L6 spare vertebrae at the bottom of my spine. It's the C2-3 fusion and the C1 fusion that gave me a lot of trouble, though. Come to find out that C1 was not fully fused to the skull. Maybe for part of my life it was, but maybe in the ordeal it was broken loose. Still a little unsure. I've been rejected by 4 or 5 surgeons, something like that, and at this point I don't want to have surgery because I've been able to recover a lot of my own. But that bone now has a tendency to slide sideways and hit that side of my brainstem. Well, the odontoid keeps becoming more retroflexed and is pressing into the front of the brainstem, messing up the cerebral spinal fluid flow. So those, come to find out, are my major issues. Now, I've done a lot of experiments in that direction. I've had a lot of luck with a chiropractor that specializes in adjusting children and knows something about cranial adjustments as well. And I've been trying a lot of diet experiments, which leads me to Chris Kresser. A lot of people on very low-carb diets are almost fanatical. Now, I've been into fitness and health all my life. I was in football, I was in other sports, I was in powerlifting and spent 6 days a week in the gym for a very long time. There was several years in my life where I ran 5 to 8 miles 7 times a week. I did a fruit and nut diet one time for 2 months straight to try it out. That was when I was 19 and doing mountain climbing, and I have my CrossFit certification from a bunch of years ago. I even put the shirt on for this video. So I knew quite a bit about the different aspects of the industry and even the very low carb diets, which I tried one for 3 weeks before. Didn't feel necessarily great on it, but I mostly just wanted to eat other food, so I went off it. Because all my hormones are off because of the brainstem issue, and the mechanical adjustments are helping a lot, but I need to try other things, other experiments. I need to make my own specialized program that helps, and diet obviously needs to be part of that. So I know there's a lot of good things about that. Started looking in that direction. I came across the article and ebook from Chris Kresser and Associates, which, thank you, registered dietitians, for that information. That book was great. The lowdown on low carb. That was wonderful insights. And I'm essentially doing an elimination diet so I can eliminate down, see if I'm sensitive to things, and build back up. Ever since I was sick in Africa, I'm now very sensitive to things I wasn't sensitive to. I have plant allergies and animal allergies I didn't have before. I can't digest dairy basically at all, where I used to have no problem with it. So things have definitely changed in my system. And I think if I can combine that with my manual adjustments, and I did a 10-day meditation retreat last year, and I've been working on that quite a bit to help control all this. So when I looked into Chris Kresser a little bit more, I heard about him having his issues with chronic diseases after getting sick. I believe it was in Asia on adventurous travels of his own and having to put together his own program, essentially. I connected with that very strongly, obviously. And there's some synchronicity, there's some serendipity going on here, because I only found out about Chris Kresser and the Kresser Institute recently, a week ago, maybe a few days ago, not very long at all. Read a few of the books, downloaded a bunch of the ebooks, and I've been reading those. And then I got this email for this job opening, which is just fantastic. Now, I've included a lot of information in the cover letter. I've included psychological profiles. There's a ton of information in my unusual resume, and I've included my website, which includes a lot of writing. So there's a lot of information that's available depending on what you would like to look at. I believe there are several things that I want to go over right now, just like we would probably have in a discussion if we were further on in the interview process. One is, why am I applying to the paid internship position when I could probably be applying to the enrollment advisor position as far as my experience and skill set appears to orient me in that direction? It's because of a couple of things. One, I'm working for 2 companies right now teaching English as a second language to kids in China, which I really enjoy. I connect with some of the kids really well, and I am used that lends itself to me being used to working online in fully distributed companies, so that meshes very well, and I'm used to many different kinds of technology, so that works out great. But I would like to hold on to a few kids, even if I got another job. At least, at the most, I could do maybe 6 hours. I could cut it down to 6 hours. I've been working this job, teaching English, for quite a while at about 20 hours a week. Recently, I did an experiment where I jumped up to 40 hours a week for a month, and that pretty much destroyed my health, hurt my health quite a lot. So that was a failed experiment, and now I can increase. I believe it would have been more intelligent to try for 30 hours a week instead of jumping straight to 40, but I'm easing into it. I'm used to, and longer than just over 2 years ago, I always worked a lot of jobs. I worked multiple jobs at the same time and more than full time, so it's been unusual for me to work part-time. But the paid internship position has it stated as 15 to 20 hours per week in there, and that would work out great. If I had 20 hours per week, I would keep 6 hours of students, which would not interfere with the time at all, because I would work with them mostly probably between 6 and 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Since you work, looks like, mostly off Pacific Standard Time, then that's very early morning for you, and there's no problem at all there. Also, I don't want to press those hours so much in general. If the enrollment advisor position, I believe the scheduled hours were 20 to 30. I think if it edged up towards 30, and if I was trying to keep a couple of students with teaching, that would be pressing my limits. And I don't want to tell you that I can do more than I can actually do. So I want to not over promise myself. So those are just my two major things that I want to keep a couple of students that I've been working with, mostly in writing stories. If you check out my website, jeffreyalexandermartin.com, it's the only version of my name that was still available 5 years ago. Every other version of Jeff Alexander Martin are gone. I am writing several stories with students, and it's amazing. It's an amazing connection, and they learn a lot that way, and it's a lot of fun. So it's a great thing. But the Kresser Institute as well is pressing this whole movement, and it looks like it can really make a difference, is making a difference, and can really make more of a difference as it grows in this health direction, which is very necessary. I definitely have the experience of being misdiagnosed and handled roughly. I've had doctors come into an office, look at me, say, "You look fine, get out." I've had a lot of things go oddly and wrong. I've had a number of surgeons who were unwilling to even do a consultation with me, much less a surgery. So I know there's definitely a need for functional medicine, and added on to that, complementary, they really go together. This view of evolutionary health is very important, which is how I'm thinking about my diet more and more now, is through this evolutionary and very, very specific to the individual view of health. I think that's very correct. So I align well with the Institute. And I believe that the paid internship position would work well. I know it's lower paying. My payment currently now, most of the time as a teacher, I work for $16 per hour. So the $15 to $20 an hour range is fine for me. It's definitely acceptable. I know the enrollment advisor is a bit more, and possibly, depending on my health, my own management of my health, and the experiments that I'm doing to put together my own program, I might be able to work into those higher hours for the enrollment advisor and shift into the higher pay at a later date. So obviously, I'm very open on everything. I really believe in transparency and honesty. Hopefully that connects with you as well. I believe it will, or the people that I want to work with are like that. So this video is part of that. If you have any other questions, obviously email me, jeffreyalexandermartin@gmail.com, or that's all my contact information is available on my website, jeffreyalexandermartin.com. I am open to anything. Here's a painting I painted with my sister at a party one night. So all sorts of things. I'm looking forward to getting a response from you, and if we connect, Will, if you think I'll fit in with the organization. I know you have a unique organization with a unique mission. You're fully distributed, so a unique structure as well. And if you think I would fit in well with the organization, definitely reach out to me. Let's have a talk and connect, and I look forward to hearing from you.